Everybody, I want to thank you for being here. We've got quite a few folks here, members of our staff, and this is a big day, an exciting day for all of us. First, I do want to point out that perhaps in a perfect world, the Thursday before the Michigan game, maybe we wouldn't be sort of doing this right now, but I hope you understand relative to what the Board of Regent policies are and how agendas work. 1 week prior to October 5th, the agendas are made public, so we thought it might make some sense to just spend some time with you and allow you to ask some questions and details. So just kind of want to go back from the beginning. I think it was about 4 or 5 months into my tenure. It was January of 2022, we sent out a survey. Really important to me. Obviously, we've talked a lot about our fan base, and we've talked about the importance of our fans to the athletic department. And so we sent out a survey that 22,000 people responded to, which in working with some of our partners was really remarkable. They'd done a lot of these types of things, and to get that level of response was, first of all, awesome, but it provided us with an awful lot of information. I think about 3 or 4 months after we did that survey, we released the results that all of you had and our fans. And so what I want you to know is that as we've gone through this process, in the next year and a half, we created an executive team of businessmen and women leaders across our state to truly dive into a holistic vision for Memorial Stadium. Obviously, we're celebrating 100 years of an iconic stadium, and the question is, what's the next 25, 50, 100 years look like of Memorial Stadium? So I want to point out, and obviously these are all encompassing, there's a lot of detail behind these, so every piece of our thinking, both during the year and a half process with our leadership team, as well as how we move forward, whether it's how we spend construction or contingency dollars, these 3 priorities are going to drive all of our thinking. These are directly a result of what our fans responded. Number 1 is create a facility that enhances the evolving fan experience. What fans expect in 2023 is perhaps slightly different than what it was 100 years ago. Number 2, we need to modernize Memorial Stadium to ensure an infrastructure for the next century. Really, really important. We love the history that has happened in our stadium is pretty remarkable. We need to make sure that while we're here, that we're working on an infrastructure to ensure that it's in place for the next 100 years. And then finally, and this is really important to us, we want to create a facility that has equitable and affordable access to all of our fans. We learned a lot in that survey, and we learned that some of our fans across our state viewed that experiencing Husker football was at some levels beyond their financial capability. And so we need to make sure that we've got a stadium that's accessible. I think I mentioned publicly that as a result of this process that we found out that between seat licensing fees and ticket costs, we're the 5th most expensive ticket in college football. So we literally went through every seat at Memorial Stadium. We know the revenue that is attached to every single seat within Memorial Stadium, so that's really important. I want to thank our executive team and committee for their hard work. Again, it's been a year and a half. We've met at least monthly and sometimes more than monthly. I also want to thank our staff and Husker Athletics. As you can imagine, this has taken a lot of time and effort on my part, and so having the type of team we have that can fulfill their responsibilities and help run the department has been really, really meaningful to me. So you probably know most of this, but this is a $450 million project. One of the things that was really important to me was that we had one chance to do this. If we're going to do this right, we're going to do it entirely. So a holistic vision, not just a South Stadium vision, not just east or west, but important for me. And so I think what you'll see on that second easel there is, and these are rendering, obviously, as we move forward, there can be slight alterations, but really important to us that we had a 360 concourse. We really need to have our entire stadium connected. And then the benefit here is we actually can have a 270-degree connection on the second level. So obviously, South Stadium, a significant focus of what we're going to do here, but every part of the stadium, east and west and north, will also be impacted for our fan experience. We really view the South Stadium as an opportunity to really rethink things. I also want to point out that none of this, as you look at the next easel, none of what we're thinking relative to Memorial Stadium modernization would be possible if we didn't have the Go Big project come online. So we have 315,000 square feet of the Go Big project, and again, I always want to thank our donors for making that happen. But as a result of that programming leaving West Stadium and North Stadium, that's what really allowed us to rethink how do we activate Memorial Stadium more than just 7 Saturdays of fall? And so what you're seeing across the country as over 100 years, as campus kind of grows into the athletics footprint, you're seeing and looking at ways to activate Memorial Stadium more than 7 Saturdays of fall. And so you'll see, and there'll be a lot more detail as we work through this. Obviously, this is part of the approval process. We don't have approval yet from the Board of Regents, and that's what we're seeking on October 5th. But we really look at this as an opportunity to do a number of things. Number one is to really integrate academic programming. So we did 3 things as an executive team. Number one, we went out to Wisconsin, and grateful for our partners out there. They had done an end zone stadium. We thought we could learn some stuff there. We went to Notre Dame, who had done a lot of academic programming within their stadium. And then finally, we went and visited the Cubs. And we spent some time with the Ricketts family and the Cubs leadership to see how they took an iconic brand, modernized it, found new revenue streams, and created an incredible fan experience for all of their fans. So we envision, and we worked with Kathy Ankerson, the Senior Vice Chancellor of Academic Affairs on our campus, and she worked with all the deans, and we identified 120,000 square feet on the east side that's going to be available for academic programming. Right now, I think they've identified about 60,000 square feet of need. So there'll be some flex space for them. This won't replace classrooms, but it may be some experiential learning type opportunities for students and some growth there. South Stadium, really passionate about this, and this is really driven by a lot of our donors, a significant desire and interest to really embrace our students. It's really, really important. Our students are going to be our donors. They're our alumni. They're our future business leaders. And I think the athletic department can do a better job of making the student experience, as well as the band, a much more integral part of what our game day environment looks and feels like. And so a real focus there. We look at community engagement, and some of this is still, sort of yet to be determined. But one of the things that I think we can do a much better job, and I learned this in my prior experience in Omaha, is the importance of using assets that you currently have to impact the greater good. So how can we use some of our assets and facilities that maybe have a broader impact than just our student athletes? Maybe it's our undergraduate population, community, local high schools. Some of that is a little bit undefined, as well as some of it, but will be really important that we have that opportunity. And then obviously on the north side, that's still the home of Husker Athletics and some evolving opportunities within the medical space. I think you all have recently probably recognized or heard that we've partnered with UNMC and Nebraska Medicine, and really passionate about making sure that our student athletes have the highest level of medical care possible. So that's sort of the vision. It's $450 million, $225 million we hope to raise privately. The athletic department will participate in $100 million. So we have about $50 million that's at the University of Nebraska Foundation in surplus funds, essentially donor funds. And actually, those are the dollars that we're going to use first. So part of the approval from the board is actually 3 different components, one of which is about a $45 million initial infrastructure package, which will allow us to get started immediately. And nothing that maybe the average fan is even going to see. It's back-of-house mechanical stuff that we need to kind of put in place before major construction happens. We will then seek to use the central lending program through Varner Hall and borrow another $50 million, just for a little context. We did borrow $50 million for the Go Big project, and through the support of our fans and others, we have a very aggressive payment plan, and so that debt will be expired at the end of this fiscal year. So we will not start another project and add debt to the athletic department until our previous debt has been extinguished. So really important there. The other $125 million, we're working through several sources to figure out how, in a true private-public partnership, we can impact, and so we'll be examining those areas as well. Finally, before we do questions, just general timelines. As I mentioned earlier, the initial infrastructure package, we can get started immediately, given approval, and hopeful approval on the 5th, and then ultimately the major construction, and quite frankly, the major disruption that's going to be a real challenge, is directly after the 24 season, so roughly January of 25. We will demolish South Stadium and rebuild it. And obviously the hope is to have one season of disruption, and so the goal is by August of 26 that South Stadium is rebuilt in a way that's indicative of the quality of the rest of the stadium. But we need to be honest with ourselves. We live in Lincoln, Nebraska, and it's very hard to predict the weather. Also, we've had some challenges in construction, as you all know, relative to supply chain issues and those types of things. So I'll also just say that we're going to dive into additional details. Again, we have one opportunity to do this. We're going to rethink everything about Memorial Stadium, and we're going to be willing to do the tough stuff. And I would just ask our fans to give us a little grace. It is physically not possible to be responsive to 22,000 of our fans on a survey to modernize our stadium in a way that doesn't cause some pain and disruption for our fans. And so I would just ask them to be patient with us and try to focus on what the future looks like. But we need to just be honest about the reality that this is going to disrupt a lot of people. We've looked at a lot of different ways to try to limit that disruption, but obviously we're playing football games, and so you've got a whole football season that you can't engage in construction. So we're excited about it. Obviously there's been a lot of changes in college athletics. What started out for me as a very simple modernization plan based on amenities relative to fans' expectation has very quickly changed into a business strategy for the next 25 to 50 years. We're very proud in this athletic department that we do not receive state taxpayer dollars or student fees to fund our annual operations. The other thing that we're very proud of is that through the success of Memorial Stadium and our fan base, we have a long history of investing in women's athletics. 92,000 people don't show up at Memorial Stadium to support volleyball if there wasn't a previous history under previous leadership of having a broad-based, successful athletic department. So for us, this vision is about ensuring that we have those revenues, find new creative entrepreneurial revenue streams that for the next 25, 50 years ensures that we do not become a burden on our campus, taxpayers, and student fees, and that we can continue to invest in our women's athletics program so we can be as competitive as we've been for the last 10 to 15 years.